I'm Ginny Nguyen. I'm Vietnamese Fellow from the Asia Pacific Leadership Program, Generation 14 of East West Center. And today I would like to share with you my journey for the past 4 months in discovering the change of mindset and how to apply that mindset to solve our challenge. So it seems to be big, but I would like to start with a simple question. If I ask, are you creative? Would you confidently say yes and raise your hand? I guess not many. I used to think that I'm not creative because I'm not very good in any kind of art or music. And as I bring that questions to many people, most of the time, majority of people will tell me that they're not creative. And although many of us think that creativity is in the form of art or music, and when we think of creativity, we think of artists or musicians. But as I research about literature review, many scientific research prove that actually it's not. Creativity is not just about art or music. It's the center of problem solving. And each of us, we have many problems that we need to solve every day. So all of us need to be creative. And as I study about leadership, creativity is identified as one of the core values of leaders, especially in the 21st century, when we are living in a world with full of complexity, uncertainties, and leaders are encouraged and required to come out with innovative ideas, new ways of doing. So, and as I reflect about my past experience in human resource in Singapore and Vietnam, I see companies have been facing more and more challenge in dealing with a lot of issues and how to make their business sustainable. And as I reflect in the context of Asia, many specialists are talking that in the 21st century, Asia have many possibilities to become the center of global economy. But at the same time, we're also facing many challenges. So whether we can make the new, the Asian Center become realities, it would depend on how leaders and how each of us can solve our challenge problem, how we can solve our complex issues and challenges to make that happen. And as I think about creativity and problem solving, it reminds me of one approach that I come across a few months ago when I visited Stanford Design School. And they talk about design thinking, which later I also know called human-centered design. And actually I prefer it more because it reflects the mindset of the approach. And it was introduced as one creative way that for us to together solve complex problems. And many NGO and business have been applying this approach to solve their challenges. So that's why I embark in my journey to discover how to build creative confidence if we believe that each of us are creative, and how we can use creativity and human-centered design to solve our complex problem. I have visited my 5 countries: Malaysia, Myanmar, Vietnam, Thailand, and Singapore. I also conduct about 20 interviews with people in different sectors like NGO, business, education, and I also have conducted about 8 workshops. And the first insight that I was shared by most people, and actually they confirmed with me that creativity actually can be learned and can be enhanced. In a conversation with one training director in an innovation training company, he shared with me about 5 creativity skills that was identified by Harvard Business Review after they conduct 6 years of study to look into the origins of creativity and how people come out with innovative ideas. And Harvard Business Review called it the innovator's DNA. So the 5 skills are questioning, observing, association, networking, and experiment. And although many people might say that human-centered design or design thinking is not new, actually it's just a reinvention of many things already exist out there, and many of this approach is common sense. But what I feel matters is it's not just about process and methodologies, although there's steps for us to follow, but it's a mindset for us to be empathy, put people in the center when we solve our challenge, a mindset of collaboration, and a mindset of starting small, embrace and learn from failures if we fail. And as I reflect about these 5 skills together with problem solving, I feel it clearly reflected, and we can apply it through the human-centered design approach. So what is human-centered design approach? There's many framework and model out there that talk about design thinking, human-centered design approach. But I would like to share with you the 4D framework, what I got inspired and come from the double diamond model created by Design Council from the UK. So as you see, there are 4D. The first one is discover, where you try to get insight into the problems. And the second one is define, when you try to reframe the problem and define the core areas that you want to focus on, because sometimes we think that this is the problem, but when we go through discovery, we find out actually it's another problem. And the third one is design, where you come out with different solutions, and the last one is deliver. It's about executions. So as I mentioned, the five skill of observing, questioning, association, networking, experiment can be applied. And by applying these five skills, we actually can build a mindset of empathy, collaborations, and embrace and learn from failure. So let's take a look into the first one, discover. Human-centered design is different from any other approach because it puts empathy at the cornerstone of the process, where it's the ability for us to step into other people's positions and understand their situations, their life, the difficulties that they're going through. So you need to, in order to empathize, we need to observe. By saying observing, it's not just about hearing what I say, looking at what I do, but also engage and interact, even immerse yourself in the situations to see to feel what I feel and understand what I'm thinking. So although this might seem very simple, the first step, but as I was shared by many people and even I myself observe in my workshop, people, especially adults, when we have our experience, our way of doing, we tend to filter out a lot of information, and we only see things that we want to see and hear things that we want to hear. I remember in a workshop when we tried to go through empathy exercise, instead of trying to understand the situations of the other people, people already asked, if you can change one thing, what could it be? So they jump right start into the solutions. So in order to observe with empathy, you need to defer on the judgment, starting with a fresh eye, the beginner eye, with curiosity, with mindfulness and attention to observe the people's behaviors, not just to find out what they want, but their implicit needs. So it's about the mindset of empathy. The second one is define. After you get all the insights from the first step, you try to synthesize and question your point of view, questions your understanding. What are the core problems? What are the real issues that people are focusing on? So in human-centered design, we try to put it in a general questions like how might we create a conducive learning environment for our students? It's one of the challenges that we work in a workshop. And by asking questions, we focus more on asking the right questions rather than finding the answers. So just imagine if you ask 5 plus 5 equal to what? How many answers that you can come up with? But if you reframe your questions, 10 equal to what plus what? So how many answers that you can come up with? Actually many or indefinite. So for another example, if I ask how may I design a chair for me to sit on? So the chair, you just focus on designing a chair. But if I change my questions, how may we design something for us to sit comfortably? So actually a chair may be just one option. So I believe that by saying questioning and define, it's also about the mindset of empathy, where you keep questioning your assumption, questioning your point of view. Is it the real problems that you're trying to solve for the people, whether it's great impact for the people? And the next G about design, after you reframe your challenge, identify the core issues that you want to focus on, it's time for us to think creatively, to associate connecting things, to identify different possibilities to solve the challenge. So association is one of the way for us to do, and there are many different techniques out there like lateral thinking, forced association, or random association. And I was share about Shindoku from Japan, where this company tried to come up with useless inventions. They try to connect things that seem to be unconnected, and they come out with very interesting idea like the sweep shoes or baby mop. It's not always useful, but also not useless. I find it's a very interesting way for us to practice our creativity, where we try to connect things that we at the first time we may not think that is related. And in order to build our connections, we need to have a knowledge. It's a foundation for us to see the connection between many things. So for interviewer, we need to build our skill set from different fields. That way we try to learn many things. And as we say, we are living in a world full of complexity and uncertainty. Each of us, we are solving very big problem, and each of us might not be smart enough or intelligent enough to come out with very innovative idea. So that's why networking come in as another skill for us to come out with innovations. And I remember reading a book a few months ago about like where good ideas come from by Steven Johnson, and he identified that each of us may have many ideas, but it may not fully develop. Ideas are developed when we talk with other people, when we share with other people, and they provide different point of view and different other ideas for us to look at, and that's how our idea can be developed further. So by networking, we need to surround ourselves with a network of people where they can challenge our assumptions and they can bring different perspectives, and it tackles a mindset of collaborations. So I remember in many workshops when we try to come out with ideas, I see many people when they hear an idea, they will say, oh, do you think it's work? We tried before, it doesn't work. Do we have enough resources, or do you think we can do it? It's the responsibilities of somebody else or the government. So by creating a networking environment, how may we can support each other ideas, saying yes and instead of yes but. And in talking about the collaboration mindset, I have a very interesting conversation with one professor from the Innovation Center in the NUS, where we discuss about the physical space. So if you remember when you were in kindergarten, or now if your kid in the kindergarten, this is the environment that we are in, when we can integrate and freely play with each other. But when we get into primary school, high school, and university, this is the environment that we are in, where teachers are perceived as the main leaders and students are the follower. And after graduations, we are put in the cubicle. So it's our working environment, and the space that we can collaborate and talk to each other are quite limited. And that's why some of the companies like Facebook, Google, they already try to come out with a working space where the employees, when they step in, they know what they are encouraged to behave and where creativity can be developed very easily. And so I think that's all about the mindset of collaboration, how we can create the physical and the cultures where people can network and share ideas to each other. The last one is about deliver. It's about executions. But in human-centered design, we don't just talk about executions. We don't want to plan for big things at the first time, but it's more about experiment. You try something small. I remember I conduct some workshop where we discuss about the future educations of Myanmar and future how can we create environment that support innovations in a school. And most of the time people think it's the leadership challenge for the management. So it may not be our responsibility. It's not the responsibility of the employees. But in human-centered design, we want to start something small wherever you are with whatever resource that you have. So just try it, make your idea tangible. If you want to create a product, just try with something first, and then you can get customer or some other people feedback, and then you can improve it further. And if you want to implement it to organization level, start at your department first, and if it works, then you present it, you implement it for the whole organizations. So, and when I interview many people, and all of them are in Southeast Asia, so we talk a lot about the fear of failure, the fear of judgment. We don't want to risk because we may lose face if we fail. So I feel experiment, just start doing something small, will be a way for us to minimize the risk. And if we fail, we will fail fast and we can learn from it. So it's not that we fail, but we learn the way that it doesn't work. So I believe it's about the mindset that we start from something, start from whatever we have and start small and embrace and learn from the failure. So that's all about the 4D, discover, define, design, deliver. And as I reflect about my past journey, I can see how I can observe how others are doing, how they when they can be creative, how they use human-centered design, and questioning how can we do it, and then and why we need to do this, and then after that I try to associate and connecting all my understanding, all the ideas, and that's how I see the 5 creativity skill like observing, questioning, association, networking, and experiment can fit in the 4D framework. And after that, I try to experiment. It helped me to gain confidence, and I share workshop with people. And the more I conduct workshop, the more I learn, the more insight that I have, and the more that I can share with people. And actually, through the whole experience, it helped me to change the mindset. So it's not just about learning the technique, learning the skill, but I changed the mindset. So it's all about the mindset. And I also feel people change the mindset as they go through the process, they go through some experiment. So I see people that they realize that actually they don't understand about the problems, so they need to ask more, to understand people more, and they realize that each of us alone cannot solve the big challenge, and we need to collaborate, we need to work with each other. And they also realize that we need to collaborate with each other, support each other to implement their ideas. So I believe that each of us have the capability to be creative, to solve our challenge. I'm now much more confident that I'm creative and I can be more creative. And in moving forward, I look forward to work with people through the mindset of empathy, through a mindset of collaboration, through a mindset of doing something small to create impact and embrace and learn from challenge. Thank you, and I believe it just takes courage to do it and mindset to do it. And on the end note, I would like to thank East West Center, all the people and organizations that make my journey, my field study to be possible and meaningful. Thank you very much for listening. Again, I'm Jeannie Nguyen from Asia Pacific Leadership Program, and you can contact me at jeannie.nguyen4@gmail.com. Thank you very much.